a kind, more like the people in the world seeking perspectives with a different line. The kids who share the interest together.
Welcome back to another episode of Hard Knock Life. I'm your host, Keith Chow. I have a special edition, no pun intended, of the show tonight. We're going to be talking nothing but Star Wars, and I have a special guest joining us. His name is David Yeh. You can find him on the Instagrams as @CoheteBoy. He is also a blogger at EndorExpress.net, where he talks about all things Star Wars and Lucasfilm. Please welcome, for the first time to Hard Knock Life, David Yeh. Welcome to the show.
Thank you, Keith.
Thanks for joining us. And everyone can see now that you have quite the collection surrounding your face on screen. Can you tell us who you have there that's trying to get some screen time from you?
All right, so I mean, everybody watching probably has all these already, but this is Finn put onto the First Order Stormtrooper body, and they fit pretty well. Like, you could see that they're pretty interchangeable. They're not going to come off or anything. And here's Kylo Ren.
Nice.
And all that stuff, and of course BB-8. So I'll put these aside, and we can talk about everything a little later.
Yeah. Well, I mean, the main reason I wanted you on is that you're one of the bigger Star Wars fans that I know, and I know that you're big into the action figures. As those of you who are watching or listening to this show know, just 1 week ago, everyone experienced hashtag Force Friday, which is when all of the retail giants, unleashed their Star Wars wares onto the world, and folks waited in line Thursday nights at midnight to get the first crack at the toys and the merch and everything associated with The Force Awakens, which is the Star Wars movie coming out in December. I know that you were one of those people who partook in Force Friday's midnight opening, and you actually were semi-famous for it. I hear that you made it onto Chris Hardwick's Periscope.
Yeah, just to give a little bit of background, I've actually done these midnight show openings for Toys R Us. Has always done this ever since 1999, I believe, was the first prequel. They had a midnight opening for all the Episode 1 toys, and then they did it again for Episode 2 in 2002, and I went to that. And from that experience, I did not go to Episode 3's because it was just kind of, in the back in the day, it was pretty easy. It was just action figure fans, right?
Right.
It was Hasbro stuff, and that's all that mattered. And that's what Toys R Us did, and they had plenty of stock, and most of us left happy. But 2002, I realized that's when they had multiple waves of action figures.
Right.
And Toys R Us didn't get all the waves right at midnight. So I found that going to a Walmart the next morning was a better haul than going to Toys R Us at midnight. And so the only reason I went to this Force Awakens Force Friday was because it was highly publicized.
Yeah.
It was so much publicity around it that even my friend who does not collect Star Wars at all wanted to go.
Right.
And he says, he's just like, hey, do you want to go? I'm like, I really don't, but but I'll go with you. And we waited maybe, I don't know, we got there around 10:30-ish, almost 11, and we got in line, and it was about 100 people back. And I was just kind of feeling that immediately I knew that we weren't going to get anything. So I was like, maybe we should just go, because I don't think Target's going to have enough product, because they've never done this before.
Right.
So either they're going to exceed expectations or they're going to completely fail. And those were my two predictions of the night. So we could, but we're already here, and I know I'm not going to get anything. So let's just see how this goes, and then maybe I'll be surprised. And soon they let the line from the outside all the way in. They stamped us, and Chris Hardwick came and periscoped the whole line and talked to everybody, posted pictures. And it was really cool, and it was really fun. And all the Target employees were like, are you guys ready for Force Fridays? Are you ready to share the Force? Hashtag share the Force, share your pictures. And then when we finally get into the toy area, there was 2 sections.
Right.
It was pretty much just decimated. And I think where they missed the boat were Target, even Toys R Us, because we did after Target we went to 2 Toys R Us's, and where they missed the boat is that they're not catering to the action figure collector anymore.
Right.
They are catering to the masses, and so not just the action figures are being prepped; they're prepping all the costumes, all the food, all the Campbell's soup that you see that's clogging the shelves and your arteries, and there's just all this junk that's on the shelf that nobody cared about in the past, and they're still not caring about.
Right.
If you go to Target now, you're still going to be able to find the micro machines really easily. Maybe not, maybe you won't find all the titanium, but you'll be able to find Hot Wheels. You'll be able to find Play-Doh. It's like there's so much stuff that they put out, and none of the action figures are stocked because that's all that what people want.
Right.
And they got like maybe 1 case or 2 cases, but mostly what they had left were yo-yos, literally just yo-yos, nothing but Star Wars yo-yos.
And you're not talking about the people actually at the store being the yo-yos, right?
No, I'm not talking about the nerds and the geeks because I'm one of them, but they had boxes of yo-yos and the drones, the Millennium Falcon drone that they thought was going to sell out. Now that's still there.
Yeah,
you'll find plenty of piggy banks and clocks. Nobody really is in a hurry to get that.
It's interesting that you talked about the hype that surrounded Force Friday this time around, and it's funny because like in the run up to Force Friday, I read a lot of criticisms online about and this is from like folks who probably aren't really vested in like the action figure collector market, talking about how what's the big deal? The movie doesn't come out for a couple months. Why are they hyping all of the toys? Well, who's buying toys for a movie 3 months away? And I think part of what some people didn't realize is that I think Star Wars everyone knows as a pop culture phenomenon, as a movie franchise, but I think for a lot of action figure collectors, Star Wars is just as an iconic toy brand as it is a movie or anything else. And I think, like you said, this isn't the first time they've coincided Star Wars with this massive hype around its merchandise. I think this is the first time where the merchandise has gone beyond just action figures. Like you said, Hasbro used to be the only game in town when it came to Star Wars merchandise, but now the brand it's really funny to see like Star Wars Hot Wheels, right? Because like Mattel and Hasbro was like Coke and Pepsi, never in the twain shall meet. So the fact that like Mattel indirectly has the Star Wars license is kind of weird. But
right.
Star Wars reinvented what it meant to collect action figures in the late 70s and early 80s, right? Like 3 3/4 action figures exist today solely because of Star Wars.
Yeah, it did, and it kind of spawned with the G.I. Joe movement. I know that you and I are both huge G.I. Joe fans and collectors alike, but would that have happened without Star Wars? No, I don't think so. Maybe eventually somebody else would have taken that step, but Star Wars was the one that did it, and that's what most everybody wants now. Is that when there's a huge merchandise push, what do they want? They want action figures. Even the people who aren't big collectors, that's what they want. They want to go to the store. They want to be able to see that product because it brings them into their own childhood. Even like for all the people who don't even buy action figures anymore, but they want to see what's out there, what's available for their kids. And for everyone to go and just not find any, it's just really disappointing. And also to find out that all these stores are holding back stock so that they have something for the rest of the weekend. It's also it's kind of an insult because you're making people wait in line, some really early on a Friday or a Thursday actually,
right?
And for them to wait hours and to come out empty-handed is really just bad.
Well, it's funny. I mean, I think, and this is something, and we may get in a little bit in the weeds here as fellow action figure hunters and collectors, but I always find that was always one thing I always found frustrating about the hobby is just the fact that, especially when you rely on like, big box retailers for most of your loot, right? In the days before Entertainment Earth or Amazon made it a little bit easier to like buy action figures. Like, you tell me if this was your experience. Like, it used to like drive to like every big box retailer in the vicinity of where you live, just like seeing what they had, right? Like if I'm looking for a Kylo Ren figure, I'm going to drive to the Toys R Us down the street, and then we go to Target, and then you spend about like $40 in gas looking for toys that don't exist. And I wonder, what is the incentive for like toy companies to like limit the stock of toys that they know are going to sell out? I know that a lot of it is scalpers buying like 10 copies of each just to hawk them on eBay. But like, when you think that, this is like something that the retailers as well as like the distributors should be putting all this stuff on the pegs because they know what everyone's looking for.
Yeah, and I think that's the problem, is that when you're making Walmarts, you're making Targets, you're making Toys R Us, even Kohl's has gotten in on the action on Force Friday, the clothing store, when you're making all these big brick and mortar places with limited space carry this much variety of product all at the same time, holding it back for a street date, they're gonna be limiting the amount they purchase of what's really important, and they're gonna lose sight of like, oh, we should order 4 cases of action figures instead of 1, or they should order 12, because this is what sells. And don't you remember, like back in the day when when they announced like the dates of all the new Star Wars figures, you could go to a store and you could at least pick through leftovers. Remember?
Right.
Now you go to the store, there's no leftovers. It's just everything is decimated. It's insane, and it's just really depressing.
Oh, that's for sure. I mean, one of the, I just mentioned that like Star Wars, back in the 70s, when you think of Star Wars action figures, you think of the 3 3/4 inch, action figures, because that's what the toys were back in the 70s. But some time ago, maybe like 5 or 6 years ago, or maybe that's not even that long ago, Hasbro decided to get into the 6-inch market with their Star Wars figures, and that was a big deal when Star Wars went from being 3 3/4, which they still have the 3/4 inch figures, but they dove into the 6-inch figure market with their Black series, and that I have a bit of a bias towards 6-inch action figures. That's kind of my favorite scale as far as collecting. So like to see like 6-inch scale Star Wars figures was like mind blowing back when like that first Han Solo and Darth Maul came out. So for me, the biggest haul on Force Friday, and viewers, if you were watching, you saw these figures on David's desk, were the Black Series Force Awakens figures. Were they your favorite finds on Force Friday last week? Did you have anything in particular that you felt was
so I actually didn't mention, I actually didn't tell you what I bought and didn't buy. And when I went to Target, all that was left was maybe their Target exclusive BB-8, and I just
which is not to be confused with the hottest toy on the market right now is the Sphero app controlled BB-8. Target actually has its own bigger version that's radio controlled and a little bit more cheaply made than the Sphero one. So those are, if you see it at your Target, it's not the one that all your friends are talking about. Just FYI.
But it is a bigger droid, so it's better for kids. So if you want them to have something to play with, go ahead and get them that.
Kids? Toys aren't for kids.
So I bought that, and I bought one of the 4-inch snow speeders, because that was pretty much the only thing that was kind of decent looking on the shelf, and I wanted to use my $25 off a $100 purchase coupon.
Yes.
And then I went to Toys R Us and got the Lego brick that they were giving out. For those who don't know, it's basically just a small wall brick. I don't have it here with me, but it has a Lego Stormtrooper on it, and it's nothing really. It's just so stupid. They should have.
I was assuming it was going to be like a minifigure, but they literally just gave you like a white brick.
It was a gray brick, and it was exclusive brick, and it just, I don't know. You could build that into your customized Lego home. I don't know, a Star Wars nerd Lego home, I guess.
Well, and I think that goes back to what you were saying earlier about just the hype around. I think it's the hype around the movie as well that kind of bleeds into like the people beyond just action figure collectors going to the stores to find these toys. Because like to jump off the point you were making earlier, when I was roaming, you know, the aisles of Target on that Friday. Now, I didn't actually camp out overnight or anything, but I went like at 9 o'clock in the morning, and they still had stuff on the shelves, and it was really interesting that, like, you know, I do my occasional morning run at Target and, you know, Toys R Us or whatever, and usually I'm the only dude in the aisle, or like when I see somebody else in the aisle, he's clearly another toy hunter like me, and you kind of give each other a look like, yeah, you know, if I see it before you do, it's mine, kind of thing, right? But on Friday, it was like dads and moms in the aisle, like looking at Star Wars toys and just, you know, grabbing things and not, you know, I mean, it's funny because like the way you can tell if it's a toy collector in the aisle, he's going through, he grabs like 5 or 6 different boxes and he's like inspecting them before he picks one, right? Like, he's looking at the paint apps on the figure, he's looking on if there's any damage on the card, but like, you know, a real parent who's actually buying it for their kid just grabs whatever they see, right? And there was that going on Friday. It was like actual normal people just grabbing the first thing they see. And, you know, it's funny that like those people who know me have heard me make this argument all the time, but like in the last maybe 2 or 3 years, I think, you know, and it's not just Hasbro, I think just the action figure market in general has decided that we're going to separate the kinds of toys that we make. We're going to make these quote unquote collector friendly toys, like things like the Black Series or like Marvel Legends, you know, which are like higher detailed sculpting, you know, multiple points of articulation, soft goods, all that kind of stuff. But we're going to put those at a premium price. They're going to be like $20 a pop, which is crazy to think about paying for an action figure like 10 years ago, that you would pay $20 for an action figure.
It's doubled basically.
Yeah, but the other token is that they've started making, you know, more cheaply made versions of the same toys. So two of the biggest, like, and the thing that blows my mind is these are huge sellers, right? Like Hasbro has what they call like the Titan Hero series figures. I think Titan Heroes refers to like their Marvel toys. I think they're called like Mission Series or Hero Series in Star Wars. But like these are like the 12-inch figures, but they're not even PVC. They're like just hard plastic, no articulation, really bland paint and sculpting. But they're 12 inches tall, and that's about like that. And there's no accessories. It's like one weapon maybe. And then they have like a scaled down version of that in the 4-inch figures, which is just like the same thing: poorer paint apps, poor articulation points, but those are what's available to people now, right?
Right. Yeah, and it's shocking that those are all sold out as well. and these are things that are just and same with Jack Pacific has made these ginormous figures, and I'm not sure who the market that's doing that. You know, it's like, I mean, they're cool if you're really into that character, and I still haven't been compelled to buy a single one yet.
Yeah, who wants a 30-inch stormtrooper in their house is what
I don't know.
That doesn't do anything.
It'd be fun for these podcasts, that's for sure. But they're making so many different versions of these figures, and all the things that are out right now are all the 4-inch figures. And then I learned that Walmart has the exclusive rights to sell the Black Series 4-inch figures, and I don't know. And I think it's just it might hurt the industry a little bit more by making too many choices for them to, you know, not 100% buy in on, because I think with the original Star Wars figures, like kids and grown-ups all like those, but that's a different era, you know, and I don't know exactly what the right way to do it anymore is, because I know that plastic isn't cheap anymore, and it's not the same, the world isn't the same, and but I think they're kind of making it a little bit more difficult for the stores to say, like, okay, we have this much shelf space and you're giving us all these options. It's kind of a little too much. Yeah.
I mean, it goes back to just you know, it's funny that you talk about like plastic being at a premium, and then one of the things like one of the weirdest Star Wars toys in recent memory that I ever saw on the shelves was their Hero Series XWing Fighter. I don't know if you're familiar with that. It was basically this massive XWing fighter.
Oh, right,
like 40 inches long, but
You couldn't
like
even
really,
open the cockpit.
yeah, you couldn't put anybody in it. It was like didn't do anything. Like I don't even think the wings popped open, but it was like this
Nope.
massive thing, and it was like $40, and I'm like, who is that for? I don't think kids don't want to play with that because it's bigger than the kid, and like adult collectors don't want that because like I mean I still have the Saga collection XWing Fighter down here on the corner, which is way more awesome than anything they put out in recent years, but like. Who, if plastic is such a premium, why are you making these giant ass toys? Like they have a Millennium Falcon that's like that. Like, who are these toys for?
Yeah, I think a lot of it now is just like, let's just dupe them however we can, and then yeah, the X-wing was a kind of failure, and I know that what they wanted to do was let's make a vehicle that kids can fly around. They could simulate, like they could just run around and it'll be light enough for them to carry, but I don't think, I don't know.
It's a big hunk of plastic. I don't know how many kids were happy to
Yeah.
receive that.
Yeah, and if you can't even fit a figure in there, then where's the play value in that?
Right.
And that's the whole thing, is that kids can put themselves into the figure's personality and say, like, I'm flying this ship. But if there's nobody inside, then there's no soul anymore, and it's just an empty ship. Maybe Hasbro has more research on this. Maybe these toys are selling really well. And I know these Force Awakens toys they're selling well because they're all sold out most everywhere I've been to. But I'm not sure how long that'll keep up when more product actually starts coming and people start going like, wait a minute, this wasn't in the movie, or like, why? There's better articulation versions at Walmart. Well, I'm going to return these then. And I don't know. Eventually, people will start learning, and so I think them trying to kind of dupe the customers, the buying audience, it's short-lived, basically. And they've been selling these giant 5 pieces of articulation 12-inch figures for a lot longer than I thought they would. I thought those were just going to die off like last year, but it's still going.
And one of the things I do want to kind of mention is when you talked about how what's cool about these toys is kids are able to put themselves into the minds of the characters. And I think for me one of the best aspects of The Force Awakens, both the film and the toys, is that seemingly the main characters from the film, and you can see them on your desk right now, is a black man and a woman. Which I think is amazing because anyone who's gone through toy aisles knows that like 2 of the hardest types of people to find in plastic form are people of color, like and girls. And part of like the backwards thinking, I think, in a lot of like toy makers is that like those types of characters don't really sell. So you're not going to get too many versions of Mace Windu or Lando Calrissian. You barely get any Princess Leia figures because girls figures never sell. So I think one of the heartwarming aspects of The Force Awakens, I think, is the fact that characters like Finn and Rey are not only sought after, but are it's just, you walk down an aisle and you can see like just rows and rows and rows, if they're not all cleaned out, rows and rows of like little plastic versions of John Boyega and Daisy Ridley, and I think that's pretty awesome.
It really is, and I'm actually, that's one thing I was really happy about, is like he appears to be one of the biggest stars in the movies, and it's Star Wars, like I feel like this is a movie franchise that you don't have to play to industry standards. You could do it however you want it and it will sell, and that's the amazing thing. And they're doing that, and I think it's great. And I think it's probably smart to package Rey with BB-8 though, because we still don't know who these characters are and what they do in the movie and how many costume changes they're gonna have. And so it's I think these are great figures so far, and I'm more of a 4-inch collector, but I can't say no. These I bought on actually I found Kylo and Rey and the Stormtrooper on Friday morning. I went to a Target that wasn't doing a Force Friday midnight sale. It's like, you know what? There's 207 Targets doing this Force Friday. I should go to one that's not doing it. Just go there when they open, and they'll have a full stock.
Right.
That's not, that doesn't have like 200 people already waiting in line. And so I did that, and I was 12th in line. But having gone to the previous night, I knew what kind of displays they were going to be putting them out, and the Black Series weren't put into the normal action figure aisle. They were put into like the seasonal section, they call it.
Right.
And so that's how being 12th in line, that's how I was able to get these Black Series figures. And then I went to a Walmart on Saturday night, very late Saturday night, and I found a lone Finn, not sitting in the action figure aisle, but in an aisle display that people were overlooking. And I don't want to say that Finn is a shelf warmer or anything, because I bought it, but he was the last one, and there were 2 Chewbacca's shelf warming in the actual figure aisle. And
yeah. I think Chewbacca is going to be my personal opinion is I think Chewbacca is going to end up being the shelf warmer. Just for one reason I think is because they just made a Black Series Chewbacca not too long ago, and there isn't really a demonstrable difference between this one and that one.
It's not different enough. I bought this Chewbacca, took it home, held it next to the one I already have, and it's just like, I'm just gonna return this one because I don't need it. At least, what they should have done is hold off on Chewbacca until they had a Han Solo, because people would want to buy that in pairs.
Right.
And people see a Chewbacca. Well, there's no Han Solo. I'm not going to buy Chewbacca.
And old Han Solo's on the way. He's got they can't
it
not
has
make
to be.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. And I think that's the weird thing, is that the Black Series 6 inches for collectors. So why are they pushing another Chewbacca at the collectors who are being more stingy now than ever because of prices? The Black Series at $20 I could kind of tolerate, but the 4-inch figures at $15 I really can't. That's hard to stomach.
And I think that's kind of the appeal of the lower articulated, lower sculpted ones, is that they're only like $7. It's like that's how much I remember when the vintage collection was like $9.99. I was like, oh my god, I'm not paying $9.99 for a toy. And it's like now if I see a toy for $9.99, I'm like, oh wow, that's a deal.
Yeah, it's kind of funny to look back in 1995 when they first started putting these out, and they were $4.99. And then I remember for episode 1, it became $6.99, and we were like, "What? It's these stupid contact chips."
Which I still have.
We had to put.
I still have a bunch of those contact chips lying around somewhere.
They're somewhere. They're boxed away, never to be found again. And but yeah, it just $9.99 is kind of where I wanted to kind of stay, because it reached that point where. But then you see Target's charging $14.99 for the 4-inch figures, and it's like, oh gosh, that's too much.
Yeah, it's kind of hard to justify. Well, we were just talking about the Finn Black Series action figure, and last week on the Nerds of Color, we're actually on Force Friday, we ran a little giveaway contest for people on Twitter who followed us and tweeted themselves holding some Star Wars merch, and then tweeting out that sharing is caring, because that's what John Boyega said on Instagram when he was talking about Star Wars toys. So I just want to quickly announce the winner of this action figure that I'm holding in my hand. This is the Black Series Finn in his Jakku gear, whatever that means, because like David said, we don't know what any of this means until December 18th. But I want to congratulate I might not be pronouncing your name correctly, but it's at Miss Tejota for winning this Finn action figure. So you need to direct message the Nerds of Color when you get a chance with your address, and we will ship this out to you right away. So congratulations, Miss TJ. So just as we start wrapping up here, David, I wanted to kind of, I like that you brought up 1995 and the power of the Force when Star Wars toys, basically 20 years ago, Star Wars toys came back in full effect, because there hadn't been any Star Wars toys since the end of Return of the Jedi, and then in 1995 Kenner and Hasbro brought back Star Wars, and for the last 20 years it's been a staple of the toy aisle. What memories do you have of collecting Star Wars back in the day, and what was your favorite toy either from the Power of the Force collection in the 90s or even further back from the original movies. What's the one Star Wars toy that sticks out for you?
Oh wow. You know, it's hard to choose just one toy because there's been so many of them over the last 20 years. I think back as they kind of come and go as experiences. So I remember my first batch of Power of the Force figures from 1995. I wasn't even going to collect these. I was just kind of in high school. Action figures were behind me,
Right.
But Star Wars was always kind of a thing I loved. I always you were always looking forward to another VHS release of the movies, you know. And then, but my friend who worked at Target, he knew I loved Star Wars, and he bought all these toys, it was almost every figure, just save for a few, the X-wing, the TIE fighter, and the land speeder, and an ATST. Just a lot of stuff.
Yeah, that's a lot of
and
stuff.
These were, and he brought it over to my house. He says, like, "Hey David, I know you like Star Wars. Do you want to buy these toys? I got a Target discount on it." You know, it's like, how do you say no to that? It's like, oh my gosh, this is so cool. Like, because Star Wars was my favorite thing, and I didn't have a lot of the toys from the original trilogy because I was too young. And I moved right onto GI Joe. Like, I had a Stormtrooper and maybe R2D2 with faded stickers,
right.
A Boba Fett, but that was about it. And we already bought GI Joe. So it's like there was a part of me that really always wanted Star Wars toys, but we never, our parents never bought us any.
Mm-hmm.
And so I bought all these, and that's kind of how it started. It's like, you have Darth Vader, how can you not buy Obi-Wan? You have R2D2, you need C-3PO, right? And
Right.
all of these characters are like, they're just paired up. And remember, monkey face Leia was like super hard to find. And,
right.
So that was one of those. It became a quest. It's like, oh, I have to have Leia, even though she's super ugly in that action figure.
Yeah.
But and that's kind of how it started, and it followed me to college. And you know, you on your spare time when you buy toilet paper with the roommates, you like check the toy aisle. What do they got?
Right.
There's a Gamorrean guard. Like, you know, it's like, so there's no one toy. It's like, it's all just kind of a collective.
Right.
All that I just remember the moments I see something in the store, and I actually, like, I'm surprised I remember so much of, if I picked up a figure, I remember where I bought it, or, you know, stuff like that. What about you?
Oh, for me, for Star Wars, it's easy. I remember, I think it was 1984, maybe it was my sixth or seventh birthday, 1984, 85. No, 83 or 84. Whenever the Ewok Village came out, I got that.
Still have it?
I don't still have it. That's the thing. But I got the Ewok Village for my birthday, and I was like, I think that's, to this day, it's still my favorite birthday gift I ever got. Like, I was beaming when I ripped open the paper, and it was the Ewok Village. And like, my parents, my family owned a restaurant, and my birthday party was at the restaurant. And so, like, after I opened the gift, I literally, like, I just sat on the box in, like, the doorway of the restaurant. So whenever, like, customers were walking into the restaurant, I was like, look what I got!
Yeah.
I got the Ewok Village. And people were like, oh, that's nice. Like, I was just so happy. But,
yeah, what are Ewoks?
Yeah, exactly, right? Like, no one knew what I was talking about. But
Yeah.
no, I agree with you. I think, like, you know, other than that one toy, I mean, I had a ton of, like, of the toys from those movies. One of my biggest regrets is like you, like, when I got older, I was like, yeah, I don't mess with toys anymore. And like, I gave all of my Star Wars toys to my cousin, who was actually older than me, right? And he, to this day, he teases me about, you know, I still have all your original Star Wars toys. And like, I'm like, yeah, I know. And like, you know, we had a yard sale, and I sold all my He-Man figures. Like, I had literally every single Masters of the Universe toy from like 82 to like 86. I had like I had Modulok, I had like everything, right? Castle Grayskull, Snake Mountain, everything.
Oh, man.
And my mom sold like an entire box, like 2 boxes full of Masters of the Universe for like $100. It's like maybe $200. I'm like, I tell my mom to this day, like, you know, like, just grab one figure out of there, you probably get $200 for it today. But you know, and I think part of my adulthood has been all about like recapturing. And I think
Yeah.
that's what these toy makers have been kind of like capitalizing on with like things like Masters of the Universe classics and even like
Yeah.
all these Star Wars toys. It's getting people like me and you to kind of like relive that part of our childhoods all over again.
It isn't it weird to think that we're now at that age where like all the people making these toys for us are people our age.
Yeah.
they're like, we want this too, so we're gonna make it, and that's, you know, it's insane. And it's like, why did I go that route? Why didn't I get into toys, making toys for myself? You know, that's something I just never thought about. I just always thought there was like this mysterious person and or company, and they just like, oh, this is just what happens. It's like people make toys, but
It's like the movie.
and,
It's like the movie Big, right? Like you just felt like
yeah,
that's how it happens. You just just toys
yeah,
everywhere
but
in the hallway.
but never have we thought that the same things that we loved as kids would be still being
Right.
sold today, and that's where I think we didn't have that mindset.
Yeah, no, I mean,
Yeah.
I also remember like, you know, when the Power of the Force and like, you know, in retrospect, a lot of those mid '90s toys were kind of like crappy, you know, like just the sculpting was kind of off and the vehicles weren't as great. But I remember thinking like, you know, in '95 or whatever, like, wow, these toys are so much cooler than the ones I had, you know. And it was like,
Yeah.
why didn't I get these? Like, so I'm gonna get these versions because these versions are much cooler than the ones I had. And then like over as the years went on, like I kept basically upgrading my figures, right? Like so I had
Yeah.
that original Luke from '95 with like that was all bulky and stuff. But then like
yeah.
a more streamlined Luke came out, so I was like, oh, I'm gonna get that guy and like throw the other guy out, you know, or whatever.
Yeah.
Like, I just kept upgrading, and then eventually I just ended up having all of them. And I was like, oh,
Right.
this Luke has
Yeah.
a bendable arm. That one doesn't. So this one is going to be the one that goes on the shelf.
And I think that that's the one biggest thing that Hasbro made a mistake on was completists, because we used to be completists, right? We used to collect every single figure, but they made it to a point where it became impossible or a waste of money. And that's something, if they kept us as completists by limiting the amount of times they redid a figure or just tried their best to make the figure right the first time, then we would still be hunting down that one figure that eludes us. But if a figure like passes us by, we kind of like, yeah, I'll get the next version. You know? But like you see like how people are with the original series. It's like they want every single one.
Yeah.
And nobody's like that with the current line at all.
And it wasn't Star Wars, but I think one of the coolest toy lines that really did that well was also from the '80s was the DC Superpowers. Like I remember as a kid, they had that like fold out. I think it might even been in the back of the package that just showed every figure in the collection, all lined up and numbered, and you were like, I need to get every single one of these.
Yeah, and that's something I missed. Like, so this is like the Lego minifigures. Every single figure comes with this, so it's like I love these things. You can see what else is out there, and like if you look at that's the one thing I don't like about the Black Series packaging is that it's so plain, and you don't know what else is in the series at all. And even on the basic 4-inch figures they have right now, you only see 3 or 4 other figures on the back of what else is in the line, and it doesn't show you everything.
Right.
So there is something to be missed about the older, like revealing of everything kind of toy packaging.
Yeah, I mean that was one of the things that, like when you talk about that experience as a kid and opening a toy, like one of the things I even looked forward to beyond just the toy itself was the little insert that came with them that you opened up, and it showed you everything that was coming out that year, right?
Especially G.I. Joes and Transformers.
Yes.
Like they had really cool lists. I still have mine.
This has been really fun. As you can tell, I can talk about action figures and Star Wars like for the rest of time. So before we wrap up, can you? I want to give you one quick plug for your website, and then
sure.
What are you most looking forward to in this new era of, a new Star Wars movie every year for the rest of our lives?
Oh man, yeah. So, well, the website I write for on the side of my main job is endorexpress.net, and it started very simply as a Star Tours fan site. and
Nice.
a friend. And basically, I got on board because I'm in California and I could take pictures of the old Star Tours. This is before they even announced the new Star Tours. That's how
Right.
old this is. And then everything just kind of snowballed. We just started covering the new Star Tours when it was coming out. We got invited to the opening of that, and now with all there's a new Star Tours coming this year with the new movie coming out. So
Right.
we have that to look forward to, and yeah, new movies coming out. There's so much news with Star Wars. It's kind of insane. We were like just dead for the longest time.
For people who don't know you, you're a huge Disney file, and one of the things I think you're probably like losing your mind over is the fact that there's going to be a for real Star Wars land in a couple years.
Yeah. It's kind of it's really hard for me to express how I feel about that because I love Disneyland so much,
Right.
and I love Star Wars so much. So you think that this would be like I would just bust a nut, and I did when they announced it, and then I had to clean it all up and kind of like go, wait a minute. Disneyland, this is kind of gross, sorry.
Yeah, it's okay.
Disneyland it's way too busy as it is. It's way packed as it is. Well, if they add this land, it's just going to be chaos. And this really should have been a proper anchor for a third park. And I know they're not going to go that route. They're going to start construction next year. And it's going to be really just crazy. I don't understand. You know, Disneyland is Disneyland. It's just so... It's going to change how people think of Disneyland forever, because when you think of Disneyland, you think of different worlds and everything. And
Right.
Star Wars is kind of Star Wars. It's just.
You're saying Star Wars could have existed as its own park and not have to like tack on to Disneyland.
Yeah, I think if they opened a third park, because when you open a new park, it's always a struggle of what are we going to put into it. What is going to make this park stand out for someone to go visit? And
Right.
California Adventure, when it opened, was a complete failure because it had nothing that people wanted to see.
Right.
But but now you have like all this. I don't know. It's hard for me to explain without going
you
into.
would think but that's topic for another show. But you would think
Sure.
that like with Star Wars and Disney, that would kind of like be your worlds colliding.
Yeah, and it totally is. I'm going to be really excited when they finally open and I get to see it for the first time. But there's a part of me that's kind of like, I want to keep the integrity of Disneyland the way it is.
Right.
And the way it is like, the shape, it doesn't need this little more of a pimple in the back of it. It's like, I don't know. It's got way too much stuff as it is. And I don't know if your readers or your listeners know that Disneyland already has more rides than Magic Kingdom in Florida. And when people go like, what? Well, Disney World's bigger. But no, that doesn't mean they have more rides. It
Right.
just means so it's... But anyway, we could talk about that in another episode.
Yeah, we'll have to. I know several other Disneyland addicts that we could devote a whole show to Disney, just Disneyland, not even like Disney parks, just Disneyland. But anyway, for those of you who are still listening, Star Wars: The Force Awakens, as we all know, opens in December. The whole world is pretty much aware of that. And again, David writes for EndorExpress.net, and he can also. I would also recommend you follow him on Instagram at Cojete Boy, just because he takes some like really dope pictures of his toys, but also of like Disney parks and other stuff like that. So thank you again, David, for joining us on Hard Knock Life. And thank everyone who's watching and listening, and I'll see you next time. Bye.
Well, it's the NOC in full color, you see me? The Hard Knock Life, comics, movies, and TV, yeah. Pop culture with a different perspective. Watch it on your screen, hit play, so check this. This is the Hard Knock Life, but not the chica kind. More like the people in the world seeking perspectives with a different line. The kids who share their interests together with a similar kind. When they said Don Glover for Spider-Man, they didn't mind. The activists, directors, comments, and the lectures. Fanboys, professional artists, and professors. Maybe a nerd who's just like you, talking about the things that you like too. So I invite you to the end.